That's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so on this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. What a day it's been, right? I don't know what you guys are up to, but I came on early this morning and gave you the games that I had leaked. At that point, about 20% of the schedule had been leaked. I just went to work. I come back from work. I have 186 games for you. 68.4% of NFL football games have been leaked, including multiple teams with every single game leaked. So you don't have to wait until 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We're going to give you every game right now. And of course, there's a couple games that we're not sure, but for the most part, we are going to go through and talk about every game. So I'm going to actually present to you the slideshow. Actually, I'll show it to you after I go over everything, okay? So we're going to start with my Denver Broncos, okay? The Denver Broncos. Week 1 at Seattle. They are going to be playing the Seahawks, and that's not supposed to be there. They're going to be playing the Seahawks on the road. Then week 2, Russell Wilson returns to Denver to take on his old team. We got the Steelers, okay? Then week 3, Denver will fly to Florida. Thank God it's not to play the Dolphins again. We don't need to play them for quite a while, if you ask me. We are going to be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then after that, another road game. We will playing the Jets. Then the Raiders at home. Then the Chargers at home. Then we hit Thursday Night Football, the New Orleans Saints. And we're going to stay in the NFC South and play the Carolina Panthers at home. Then we're playing at Baltimore, at Kansas City, versus Atlanta, at Raiders, versus Cleveland, then the bye week, and then we got the Colts at home, the Chargers on the road. So there it is, Bill. It is December 22nd. That is when the Broncos and Chargers are playing each other. And here we go. I am going to present to you the entire NFL schedule. So here we go. Looking right here, we'll start with the Denver Broncos, okay? So week 1, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Jets, Raiders, Chargers. Thursday Night Football, Sean Payton plays his former team. That's going to be a lot of fun. Then you got the Carolina Panthers. That should be a winnable game. At Baltimore, Bill, you know how I feel about the Baltimore Ravens. And then at Kansas City, look at this 2-game stretch. At Baltimore, at Kansas City, then they have to play Atlanta, then the Raiders, who they've struggled with, and then Cleveland. This little stretch right here from November 13th all the way down to December 1st is very tough. And keep in mind, Denver has one of the latest buys in week 14 is their bye week. So a really tough schedule. It's one of the easier ones per analytics, but I don't think it's that easy. And then you look at the Colts, and then here it is, the Chargers. This is when I will be flying to LA to watch the Chargers game, and I'm going to meet with a friend of the podcast, longtime friend, Bill. He's in the comments right now. He said, December 22nd, cannot wait to see you and Rick. You're going to have to hustle out here to be home for Christmas. It's going to be a good time. Maybe I'll just stay there. We'll see what happens. But I'm super pumped about this. And then after the Chargers game, they go to Ohio to play the Bengals. I was going to go to this game and then verse the Chiefs to close out the season. So let me zoom out here and let's just go team by team, okay? We'll go with the Giants here because the entire New York Giants schedule is also leaked, okay? Week 1, the Giants will be playing the Minnesota Vikings. This is going to be a home game for the Giants. Then they play at Washington. So Daniel Jones, Jaden Daniels, that's going to be fun. Then you got Cleveland on the road. That should be an interesting game. Honestly, Minnesota's Washington, you could come out the gate 2-0. All right. Now, what happens week 3? That's going to be potentially a real test in a Cleveland team that's going to have Deshaun Watson that made it to the playoffs. That's going to be fun to look at. Then you have Dallas. So let's say you guys sneak a win here. And let's say that the Giants are 3-0 by week 4. All of a sudden, this game becomes really important because you got Dallas playing at Cleveland. So depending on what happens here, they would even win the tiebreaker, just having a better record against the same opponents. But then they play the Saints, right? So this week 4 lines up to be a really good game because I could see Dallas winning all these games and the Giants winning all these games. And that's why week 4 could be a huge game. And that's why it's on Thursday Night Football. So if you see a game in red, that means it is on Thursday Night Football. If you see it in blue, it's on Sunday Night Football. If you see it in purple, Monday Night Football. And if you see one of these pink, that's Saturday. Along with Brazil, England, and Germany being color coordinated, yellow, blue, and green. Halloween game will be orange. Thanksgiving will be Thanksgiving colors. Black Friday will be blue. And Christmas will be red and green. So it should be pretty easy to follow. Real quick, Bill said, don't know if you saw, but the Giants are going to be an expanded version of Hard Knocks for their 100th season. Going to have to sign up for a new streaming service. That's freaking awesome. Who's streaming it? I'm just glad we don't have another week 1 opening disappointment with the Cowboys. Thank God. Yeah, that was rough. So we're going through this right now. Okay. So we got the Giants. Let's stay with the Giants. All right. So they got the Minnesota Vikings, the Commanders, then this Thursday Night Football game against the Cowboys. That's going to be a tough game. But then they have to go at Seattle. Now, keep in mind, this is a very far flight, but they're going to have 10 days to prep for it because they're playing on Thursday night. So a little bit of extra rest. I think that will kind of, compensate for the traveling. And they might give Seattle their best shot. Then they play at home against Cincinnati. And this is blue, which means this game is happening on Sunday Night Football. So you see the Giants on primetime 2 out of the 3 weeks from week 4 to week 6. It's going to be Thursday Night Football, and then it's going to be Sunday Night Football against the Bengals. Then you play the Philadelphia Eagles. I got to say, this is some stretch you got here. Dallas, Seattle, Bengals, Eagles, Pittsburgh. And this Pittsburgh game is going to be on Monday Night Football. So really, you got three out of the 4. I guess it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total. 3 out of this 5-game stretch is all on primetime. So if you're a Giants fan, you're going to get a little bit of primetime this year. Okay. And the Giants pretty much get a good, decent amount of primetime games every single year. All right. Then you got the Commanders. This is going to be a home game against the Commanders. Then at Carolina, this is the Germany game. This is the game that was leaked yesterday. Then they hit a bye week at week 11. Okay. Then they're at home against Tampa. And then they are playing on Thanksgiving against the Dallas Cowboys. So that is going to be Thanksgiving football. Is Ezekiel Elliott going to jump back inside the Salvation Army bucket? We're going to find out against the New York Giants. That should be a fun game. And then you go to New Orleans. Actually, you're at home against New Orleans and at home against Baltimore. At Atlanta, home for Indy, and then at Philly. Okay, so just looking at the Giants, I would say I'm gonna grade these schedules from 1 to 10, just looking at it with what I know. I think the Commanders are in some type of a rebuild. Okay. I think the Eagles and the Cowboys are going to be good. So that means your division's already tough. If you have 2 playoff teams in your division, you have one of the harder divisions. Okay. But Washington, winnable game. Minnesota, winnable game. Carolina, winnable. Okay. That's 3 winnable games. New Orleans, I'll call it winnable. Atlanta could be winnable, and Indy could be winnable. But you also, I mean, what is that? A total of 7 games that, and I'm not saying that these opponents aren't going to be difficult. I'm not saying Atlanta is not going to be tough or Indy isn't going to be tough. A team that did very well last year, even without Anthony Richardson. So just looking at it, I think this is going to be a tough year for the Giants. I'm not saying that they're going to have as bad of a season as they had last year, but I think their best chance of making a push to the postseason is starting the season 4-0, because we know that this stretch is going to get difficult. Seattle, Cincinnati, and Philly, especially going to Seattle. So you got to win the games you're supposed to win. But this is going to be a tough division to escape from with the Dallas Cowboys and Philly. And we're going to go over Philly right now because all 17 of Philadelphia's games have been leaked. And Bill said it's going to be on HBO Max. And Liam says, hi, what's up, Liam? And Bill says, yeah, we're going to have a 7-11 season, I think. Hate to say it out loud. I'm right there with you. It's okay. It's all right. All right. Let's look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Week 1, they are playing the Green Bay Packers in Brazil. Week 2, they are playing the Atlanta Falcons at home. Okay. And then they are playing the Saints week 3. Okay. So far, so good, right? Tampa Bay, playoff team. They're actually the team that bounced Philly out of the playoffs. Is that going to be a revenge game for them? We will see. Then they hit an early bye week. You see, they got a week 5 bye. Why is this leaking? What is that? Is there a hole in this? All right, so you got the bye week early for the Eagles, week 5. Okay, then they're going to come out of it and play Cleveland, Giants, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Dallas, Washington, Rams. This is a tough stretch here, okay? Cincinnati, tough. Jacksonville, I expect to be tough. Dallas, I expect to be tough. Washington, yeah, that might be a winnable game. But then the Rams in LA, and then Baltimore. So I'm going to say from week 8 to week 13 is when we're going to find out what Philly is, all right? They make it to the Super Bowl by leading the NFL in negative plays defensively. And then last year, they get bounced in the first round, and they were the NFL's worst at producing negative plays. Will Nolan Smith rise to the occasion? All right. Will Jordan, you know who I'm talking about, Jalen Carter, will he rise to the occasion? I mean, they were good last year, but will they take that next step? And this is kind of the stretch where, push comes to shove here for the Giants or for the Eagles season. Week 8 through week 13 is no easy feat. Washington being the only easy game, if you want to call it that, but it's still Thursday night football. And there's nothing like prime time to make a lesser opponent play very, very tough. Okay. So then moving on, here comes a winnable game against the Carolina Panthers, the Pittsburgh Steelers, then the Commanders again, then Dallas, and then the Giants. So ending the season playing 3 divisional teams. And those are probably winnable games. Who knows about Dallas, but I could see them finishing the year pretty well. But like I said, whatever happens from week 8 to week 13 is going to determine what kind of year Philly is going to have. I think they could lose their opening game. Green Bay's a really good team. They have a lot of momentum going into this season. They added talent. Their team is better. I expect Jordan Love to be better. It's not going to be like last year where a switch flips around week 8. The switch is flipped, and this is going to be a tough game. So Atlanta, they now have Kirk Cousins. The expectations are they make it to the playoffs. That's a tough game. But I think worst case scenario, they drop to 0-2, but then they win maybe, I think by week 5, they have a bye week here. I think they're going to be at worst 2-2 by the bye. And then I could see them winning this game with extra rest coming out of the bye. Let's see, Cleveland. We don't know when they have their bye yet. We know that it could be week 4 as well. We don't know yet. But yeah, they should have more rest than Cleveland. The Giants, I mean, let's say they win these 2 games, okay? So they're 2-2, and then they go to 4-2, and then they hit this stretch of games, okay? And that's going to determine their entire season, in my opinion. Let's go to the Washington Commanders, who have been keeping their cards real close to the chest here. They've only leaked 10 games, and it's going to start off with Jaden Daniels going to Tampa Bay to take on Baker Mayfield. The New York Giants, week 2, the Commanders will be at home. We don't know week 3 yet. Then they're going at Arizona. Okay, then you go down here to week 9 at New York Giants again. So you have both of these games, which you would have to have because the Giants have every game leaked. Then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, then at Philly, and a little bit of an unknown here, but then New Orleans, Philly, Atlanta, and Dallas. And then let's see, for the Dallas Cowboys, Cleveland. Honestly, Washington's schedule is not that bad, but we're still missing some games. Okay, so let's take a look. We are missing a Dallas game. We are missing a Panthers game. We are missing a Bears game, a Cleveland game, and a Tennessee game. And Bill saying here, Commanders always play the Eagles tough. They could take it. Yeah, they do. They do. I if I'm not mistaken, when the Eagles were undefeated, it was the Commanders that gave them their first loss. And if I'm not mistaken, that happened on Thursday Night Football. Not last year, but the year before. So you're damn right. The Commanders are going to give them their best shot. All right, moving out of the NFC East, let's bounce to the AFC West. Okay, let me just evaluate this one time real quick. Let me refresh this right now. We have 186 games leaked. Now we have 197. Ladies and gentlemen, we just went up to 197. The NFL schedule is 72.4% leaked. Okay, so Denver, at Seattle, home for Pittsburgh, at Tampa, at Jets, home for the Raiders and Chargers, and then this game's going to be all eyes on. This is Thursday Night Football. Sean Payton goes to New Orleans. He probably gets booed going into the Superdome. Should be a lot of fun to watch. Then at home for Carolina, and then they get ready to go to a hostile, tough Baltimore and take on the Ravens, and then the Chiefs. Like I said, week 9 and week 10, that's when push comes to shove. They could F around and maybe find themselves by week 9, 4-4. I could see that, but how are they going to do against Kansas City and Baltimore? And I really think that that's when we're going to learn what we are. It's going to happen in the beginning of November. And then you got a home game against Atlanta, an away game against the Raiders, a home game against Cleveland. I could see these 3 games all being won, but I can also see all 2 or 3 being a loss. So like it's really one of those where we just have to wait and see what Bo Nix looks like. And then they hit the late bye week 14. Indianapolis at home, Chargers on the road, and then at Paycor Stadium to take on the Bengals, and then we wrap it all up with the Kansas City Chiefs coming to Denver. It should be a very, very fun year. Okay. Now, let's see what other teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers have all 17 games released. So let's go through those. And Bill said, I'm actually looking forward to the schedule release videos. The Giants one usually sucks, but the Chargers Patriots videos are usually really good. And I know I'm going to sound biased here, but the Denver Broncos have used Peyton Manning the last 3 years to do our schedule reveal. And they've done a great job. Like their production value has been amazing. And I hate to say it, but the Chargers, yeah, you wrote it here, the Chargers. But I didn't like the Chargers last year. I know everyone else did, but I'm not an anime person, and they used anime style. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay, Russell Wilson at quarterback, Justin Fields. What is it going to be like? What is it going to hold on? Bill said, hoping for the best for your Broncos this year. Rick can suck it though. That's hilarious. Thanks, Bill. Are the Bears playing? Are you playing the Bears this year? No, just in general. I love it. Okay. I think Bill's with me with all the Caleb Williams stuff, I think. Let me know why. But thank you. I'm glad you're on my team. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have every game released. Atlanta will be Russell Wilson's first game. Arthur Smith's revenge game is going to be week 1, who is now the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. He will be actually, the Pittsburgh Steelers will be traveling to Atlanta to take on a team that Arthur Smith had coached for the last couple years. Then Pittsburgh goes on the road again to Denver. So not getting a home game until week 3. This Denver game is going to be crazy. This is going to be Denver's home opener. So there's going to be extra. It's going to be turned up to 10 for that. But then it's also Russell Wilson returning to Denver to take on the quarterback that made Sean Payton run Russell Wilson out of town. This is going to be, I can't say enough how excited. Then our first time, the Steelers playing the Harbaugh-led Chargers. And then the Colts. Okay. Chargers, Colts, Denver, Atlanta. None of these teams is like amazing, but every one of these games is going to be a close game in the fourth quarter, as far as I'm concerned. Then you get here to Dallas, week 5, and it's like, okay, this is when it gets a little bit more challenging. This is probably the higher tiers. Dallas, Philly, Houston, Baltimore, Chiefs. You get it. Then the Raiders, okay, the Jets, the Giants, and then a bye week. By week 9, okay, I think the Steelers are going to be in position to make a late postseason run, right? I think it's not crazy to think by this point in the season they could be, let's say, 4-4 or 5-3, something like that. And they're going to come out of the bye week and probably get a win against the Commanders. Just extra rest. Although I think the Commanders are going to be more tough than people are expecting. Then they play Baltimore at home. Very tough. Then they go to the Cleveland and they play the Browns on Thursday Night Football. And then they play Cincinnati and then Cleveland again. So look at this. From week 11 to week 14, they're just playing divisional games. So each team, in my opinion, has a sweet spot of when push comes to shove and when we're going to find out if this team is good enough to go to the postseason or not. This is a very tough division, the AFC North. So for the Pittsburgh Steelers, week 11, 12, 13, and 14, that's their part of the year where you're going to find out if the Steelers are going to the postseason or not, right? Especially with 4 divisional games in a row. You just don't see that. Very rare. 1 in a row or 2 in a row, 3 in a row, maybe 4 in a row, you don't see it. And then once they get done with all those divisional matches, you think, man, they're going to be exhausted. Especially if you know how Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Pittsburgh and Cincy, Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, like these are very tough football games, very physical football teams. So do they get a break when they come out of it? No, they go to Philly and take on the Eagles. And you're like, damn, that's freaking tough. Okay, well, they get a break after that, right? You'd be wrong again. They're going to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And then surely they will end the season with a favorable matchup. Well, you'd be wrong again because they're going to play the Chiefs on Christmas. Come on, can you give us one softball? One softball. Sorry, we can't do it. You're playing the Bengals week 18. I got to say, man, when I look at Pittsburgh's schedule, I'm like, they better do everything they can to go 6-2 by the bye week or 5-3. But if they're 500 by their bye week, I just don't see how they're getting to the postseason. And I know Russell Wilson and all that, but I think it's very possible that Justin Fields by week 12 is starting. And if the Steelers aren't having a ton of success, let's say they're below 500 by week 5, I think Justin Fields will make his debut against the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's very likely. And Bill said, I agree with you. Smith is actually a good OC, just not a good head coach. And Bill said, first under 500 season for Tomlin. What's your hot take? You know what? I said this when Russell Wilson got traded. I said, if Mike Tomlin's first season under 500 is Russell Wilson's first year in Denver, you can kiss the whole legacy goodbye. Like, I don't know if he could be a Hall of Famer. Like, I believe he would still be a Hall of Famer based on what he's already done. But if there were any way for you to play so bad that you just put a bad taste in everyone's mouth, so much so where people forget about all the good, I would say Russell Wilson's doing his hardest to accomplish that. And if he takes the Steelers under 500 for the first time in the Mike Tomlin era, that might just be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And in this case, the camel is Russell Wilson getting a Hall of Fame jacket. So yeah, a lot at stake. But like I said, man, this stretch here is absolutely a nightmare. Baltimore, Cleveland, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. I mean, that is just as tough as it gets right there. That's not going to be easy, okay? If you guys can see this, I'm going to zoom in for you guys. Take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. So starting week 1, they do have 2 primetime games. Let's see, Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football right here. Jets on Sunday Night Football. That should be fun, right? Pittsburgh and the Jets, Steelers and the Jets, and then playing Monday Night Football against the Giants before going into a bye week. But look at this, man. Look for yourself, okay? I'm sorry. I hope you're not getting nauseous. All right, week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. But just take a look at what happens right around this time of year, right? Baltimore, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. I know I sound like a broken record right now, but this is effing brutal. All right, so where did I put my... Oh, hold on one sec. Nah. Yeah, hold on one second, please. I need my... I need something. Oh my gosh. All right. It's all business. I can't be freaking hitting my vape like a teenager while I'm trying to do this. All right. Commencing nicotine. Nicotine, are you ready? Always ready. Engaging. All right. So, that is the Steelers' schedule. Are they going to make the playoffs? Maybe unlikely. Maybe a little unlikely. Man, I did some landscaping today, and I got in a bad injury with my leg, and part of my new normal is that it's very hard for me to do any kind of physical work. And God, my leg is just killing me because I was weed whacking this giant hill, and I just don't have that in me anymore. I really need this podcast to take off. Please support a crusty old vet and subscribe to this channel if you like it. All right, so moving on to, let's go to the AFC. Let's pick another. Okay, the Jets have 16 games released. That can't be true because if there were 16 games, and there would be one missing, and that would be easy to plug and play. Okay, it looks like they're all here. Okay, yeah. So there was 16. Tennessee looks like up here they're playing week 2. So let's go through it, okay? The New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers. They're starting off week 1, and they're going to go to Candlestick to play the 49ers. This is a very, very challenging game. But before you say, man, that's really challenging for the Jets, keep in mind, this is a very, very good roster, a very good quarterback, continuity with Nathaniel Hackett. Whatever the expectations were last year, it's even more realistic this year. So, everybody's saying this is so tough for the Jets. Well, it's tough for the 49ers as well. Let's just get that, straightened out. And this is a way for the Jets to really come in and plant their flag and tell the NFL, hey, we're here. NFC defending champions, week 1, no problem. And if they do win that game, that is going to be a huge, huge statement. And then they play the Tennessee Titans week 2. So the NFL says, you're going to San Francisco. And then week 2, they just throw a little softball. And they're like, yeah, we're sorry about that. And it's like, no, it's not okay. That's still not okay. And I'm thinking of Tom Grassi's script writers right now. It's not okay. You can't just give us Tennessee and think it's okay. What if we give you New England after? No, because people aren't even going to watch that game. Okay, we'll give you New England on Thursday Night Football. Okay, we'll do it. All right, so whatever happens here, likely going to be 2-1 when Denver comes to New York to take on the worst coaching job in the history of coaching, what Sean Payton said about Nathaniel Hackett. A ton of revenge games on deck for the Broncos, with Pittsburgh and the Jets being played in the first two of the first 4 weeks. Then they go to Minnesota. Okay, and let's be real. Denver is not as good of a roster as the Jets. Okay, so possibly 3-1. Minnesota 4-1. Buffalo, we'll go 4-2. Pittsburgh 5-2. 6-2. 6-3. 7-3. 8-3 at the bye week. 9-3. I'll take a loss. I don't know if it's here or here, but by this point, we'll say 9-4. We'll say 10-5. 11-5. 11-6. 11-7. Or I guess, yeah, 11-6, right? Yeah. I think they got about 11. What's the over-under for Jets? All right, 9.5 wins. No, that's for 2023. Let's see. 2024. Oh, as of 3 days ago, it's at 9.5. Honestly, guys, I'm jumping on that. If it's at 9.5, I'm taking the over. I do think there'll be some growing pains, but still, there's enough softballs. Now, look, there's also the fair share of tough games, but as long as they split with Buffalo and they win their, Jacksonville could be a much tougher opponent this year. It's not going to be easy, but they should beat Miami. Aaron Rodgers should be able to outplay Tua, especially at Miami. But look, when is this game? It's in December. Miami's not a tough environment in December. It's a tough environment in September. Okay. Seattle, that's going to be tough, but guess what? Seattle's coming to the Jets. That's a huge difference. It's a far travel, going Newark to Seattle. And that's exactly what the Jets are doing week 1, but going to, San Francisco. So it's going to be, or actually they play in Santa Clara, but still, you get what I'm saying. That's a far travel. But overall, taking a zoomed out look at the Jets, I think that they are lined up to go to the postseason. I don't see anything stopping them from going to the postseason. I don't see it in their division. I think they could actually win this division. I understand Buffalo is the safe bet. But as long as Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, there's just too much talent on this team. And I think it is not unrealistic to have Super Bowl aspirations if you're a Jets fan. I personally am not picking the Jets to go to the Super Bowl. At this moment, I could be persuaded early on if, let's say, they are, 6-0 to start the season, including a win against the 49ers, I would probably jump on board, right? But I need to see it first. I haven't seen anything. Aaron Rodgers hasn't thrown a 300-yard game in years, okay? Years. So, yes, I need to see it to believe it. But if we're just looking at a roster on paper, you'd be hard-pressed to find a roster that can stand up next to the Jets. There are those rosters in the NFL, but I can count them on one hand. So if you're a Jets fan, it must feel really good to be this excited, okay? Then let's look at another team. Let's look at Buffalo, right? Because they've leaked 11 of their games, but we still don't know who they're playing week 1. Okay, we can try to do process of elimination because we know it's a home game. So looking at their home opponents, right? These are their away opponents. These are their home opponents. Okay. So their home opponents, you got New England, who also doesn't know who they're playing week 1. And that would make sense, right? That they both don't know who they're playing because they're playing each other. So it is also a divisional game. So we'll put that in the maybe pile. Jacksonville. They can't play Jacksonville. Jacksonville's playing Miami. Tennessee. Tennessee's playing Chicago week 1. Arizona. What is Arizona doing week 1? Arizona doesn't know what they're doing week 1, but that would be a really weird game to play week 1. I'm going to go ahead and say that this week 1 game is going to be New England. Miami coming week 2. Buffalo should be able to handle their business against New England, and Miami is going to be a very tough game. That is traveling to Miami in September. It will be hot. Buffalo is probably going to lose that game. Then you go here week 3. We're not sure yet what it's going to be. We don't know what the hook's going to be. I don't need no hook on this beat. All I need is a, you know that song, right? All right. Then they go at Baltimore, at Houston, at Jets. Yowzers. This is not an easy 3-game stretch for Buffalo. Miami, we don't know. Baltimore, Houston, Jets. Okay, so honestly, this could be a kind of a similar year that they had last year. And it doesn't get easier. Just looking down here, right? Seattle, in Seattle, Miami coming to Buffalo. That's much better. It'll be snowing probably. Kansas City, San Francisco, the Rams, Detroit, the Jets again. So it looks like New England is going to be the opening game and the closing game. Honestly, Buffalo could miss the playoffs this year. All right. Nobody's going to say they're in a rebuild as long as they have number 17 under center in Josh Allen. But keep in mind that when your schedule's this tough and you have this much turnover, and no Stephon Diggs, no Gabe Davis, new offensive coordinator, who's going to be calling defense? There's just a lot going on right now. And I do think Josh Allen is talented enough to kind of overcome a lot of these things and win some of these games, whether it's Buffalo, Houston, or splitting with the Jets or winning against Detroit. I think that they're going to be normally, I would say a 10-win season, but I think they could end up only getting 9 wins this year, right? If I had to pick a team between Buffalo and the Jets, I'm leaning towards the Jets. This is a tough schedule for Buffalo, and I'm not sure that they're going to have their best team on the field. Okay. So you look at Miami. All right. They open the season against the Jaguars, and then they're at home against Buffalo. Then they go at Seattle and then against Tennessee. This is not terrible, but it's not great. All right. Jacksonville's tough. We forget how tough Jacksonville is because they missed the playoffs and they crumbled. They just fell apart. I think they went 0-4 to miss the playoffs last year to close the season. Don't expect Jacksonville to be continuing that. Jacksonville's going to figure it out. They got weapons. They added Gabe Davis. They lost Calvin Ridley, but they drafted one of the best receivers in the draft. And who was that again that they drafted? Wasn't it the Alabama receiver in the first round? Let's see. Coleman. It's not even here, but I remember just by typing that. It was Coleman out of Florida State, right? Now I'm second guessing myself. Who did the Jaguars tracking their first round picks? Oh, it was Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah. No. Coleman is the Buffalo receiver. That's why I confused that. All right. So LSU's number 2 receiver, Brian Thomas Jr. They replaced Calvin Ridley with him. There's going to be, some new players, and it might take a couple weeks to really get going. But Jacksonville's not going to be an easy game by any means. So Miami Jacksonville goes Jacksonville, Buffalo, Seattle, Tennessee. They get kind of an easier game here on Monday Night Football. Kind of a weird game to be on Monday Night Football. I wouldn't say Miami, Tennessee is a must-see TV, but we got kind of an unknown 4-week stretch here. Then at Buffalo, and then another Monday Night Football game against the Rams. And then they play the Packers on, Thanksgiving. So we got Green Bay versus Miami on Christmas 2 years ago, and that was awesome. This time it's going to be in Green Bay in December. So that makes a big difference. Going to Miami in, it was so hot. My brother was at that game, and he said that, he said he was cold, and I looked up the weather and it was like 73. Okay. It's going to be in the 20s probably. I mean, it's early December. It could be in the 40s, but we know the Dolphins just don't play well in the cold. So this, from here on down, this really matters. At New York Jets, that's cold. We're talking January cold. At Houston, they'll be fine. At home against the Jets, they'll be fine. We don't know what these two are, but at Green Bay is definitely a factor. Now that I've looked at all of these, I think I'm going to go, the Jets are going to go 1, Buffalo 2, Dolphins 3. and New England 4. Okay. It's just not New England's year. We don't even know if they're going to start Drake May yet. There's just a lot of stuff to figure out for the Patriots this year, and their schedule is on the tougher side of things. Then we go, okay, let's see. 17 Broncos released. All right, Green Bay's released all 17 games. Let's take a look at Green Bay. Okay, Green Bay playing that. Let me hit some of these comments, actually. And Bill said, sorry to hear it, Kyle. I know what it's like, just in a different way. You have your leg, and I'm just old. You know what it's like, though. I mean, I'm way too young to feel this old, but it's like, man, I stood up and my back was like killing me. Bill said, any thoughts on the Netflix exclusive games? NFL going hard on subscription services, apparently. I'm not a fan of okay, Amazon is one thing, right? They bought all of Thursday Night Football. I'm okay with having a subscription service if it's a long-term thing. Just like I'll buy ESPN because I know Monday Night Football is going to be on ESPN. What I don't like is when they take one football game and put it on Peacock, and you have to download an entire service just for one football game. Okay. Now, with that said, Netflix is kind of the OG of all these streaming services. So I think for Netflix, 99% of people already have Netflix. So not a big deal. But if it has to be like Netflix live TV, I don't even know if that's a thing right now. But if that's what we're talking about, then yeah, I wouldn't like that either. But if it's just like, as long as you have Netflix, you have access to the games, that's, I would say, doable. But when it comes to these random, the Peacocks and the, Paramount Plus getting a game, like, to me, that is just ridiculous. The NFL really needs to stop doing that because, the fans have been very honest. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's just bad business. It's like, there's no reason to be that greedy. Like, your business is already profitable. And the reason it's so profitable is because of the very fans that you're taking the money out of their pockets. And they have already committed enough money to this. Most people can't really afford all these streaming services, and they're buying them anyway. It just feels like being taken advantage of a little bit when they just keep going. But great question, Bill. Okay, so the Green Bay Packers going to Brazil to play the Eagles, then Indianapolis week 2 at home, Tennessee on the road, Minnesota. I think there's a really good chance if Green Bay wins this Philly game that we're talking about a 4-0 Packer team going to the Rams to play a tough opponent. And I think worst case scenario, they'll be 2-1, or let's see, they'll be 3-1. And this is the difference between 3-2 and 4-1, right? Which feels totally different. If you're 3-2, you're one game from 500. If you're 4-1, you really feel like you got some breathing room, especially if you're playing Arizona the next week at home, right? Because if you can win that game, all of a sudden you're 5-1, right? And let's say you do lose to Houston. Okay, you can afford a 5-2. But if you drop this game, you win this game and you lose this game, you're pretty much just one game from 500. So I think this Rams game is much bigger than it appears right now. And I think when we revisit this game during this time of the year, I think it'll be one of the games that everyone has circled as one of the bigger games week 5. I believe week 5, right? Yes, week 5, October 6th. Bill said, what time is the official release? Also, Broncos 17-0 until proven otherwise. The official release is not happening until 8:30, but we have right now, let's see, we have 197 out of the 272 games. Let me go ahead and refresh this. All right, now we have 205 of the games. Let's see if any of our, wow. Okay, so Buffalo's actually going to be playing Arizona. So I was suspecting that they would be playing New England. And I was wrong about that. Arizona was the other team that I wasn't sure about because I don't understand that game, Buffalo, Arizona. But remember, there is a common theme, and I guess it's my fault for veering away from what trend I'm seeing. There's not divisional games week 1 this year, right? Every single year, week 1 is 80% divisional games. Look at this. Buffalo, not in a divisional game. Miami, no. New England, no. Jets, no. Baltimore, no. Cincinnati, no. Cleveland, no. Pittsburgh, no. Houston, no. Indy. Oh, wait. Yes. Okay, Indy and Houston, you got, one divisional game here. Jacksonville, no. Tennessee, no. Denver, no. Kansas City, no. Two divisional games. Raiders and Chargers. No. 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 Yes. Okay. 3. No. 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 So you only have 3 divisional matchups week 1. Unheard of. Inconceivable. As Rick would say. So yeah, that is totally different than what we are used to seeing. I should have known because this game was unknown, and I said it's probably New England because New England's was unknown as well. But no, New England is playing at Cincinnati, and Buffalo will be playing at home against the Arizona Cardinals. A little bit surprised about that one, and we'll just keep refreshing this. So where were we? Okay, right about here. Jacksonville, Detroit, and then a bye week. So why this Rams game is so important? Because like I said, let's say they go 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. Let's actually say they lose this game, 3-1. They win this game, they're either 3-2 or 4-1. Let's say they go 4-1. Okay, 5-1. Let's say 5-2, 5-3, 5-4. This is a tough stretch. Houston, Jacksonville, Detroit. I don't think they lose all 3, but if they can take care of the business against some of the lesser opponents on their schedule, then they can afford this little bump in the road before they hit a bye. And then they come out of the bye playing the Chicago Bears in a game that, how is this not primetime television? The Chicago Bears in a brand new era with Caleb Williams and all the weapons, playing the Green Bay Packers, one of the richest rivalries in all of sports. I mean, this game should have been week 1, Monday Night Football doubleheader, no questions about it. The fact that we have to wait till November for this game is ludicrous, in my opinion. And the fact that the NFL didn't even say, okay, you're waiting till November, but it's going to be Sunday or Monday Night Football, even crazier to me. You can't just sneak this game into the 1 p.m. slot. This is a huge game, so not a fan of that. And then you got San Francisco, Miami on Thanksgiving, Detroit, Seattle, New Orleans, Minnesota, Chicago. This looks like a 10-win season to me. But we need, Jordan Love still kind of has to prove that he can be that guy in year 2. We saw Jalen Hurts have a really good year, and then last year he was dealing with injuries most of the season, and it was pretty apparent. Which reminds me, how do you know when it's a dad joke? It's apparent. Sorry. But yes, Green Bay, every game has been released. And so has the Minnesota Vikings. So let's look at the Minnesota Vikings, who are going to be going with J.J. McCarthy in a new era. We also have every Detroit Lions game. And while we're at it, I'm going to judge how I think the NFC North is going to go for just, this is a quick and dirty. I'll do a much deeper dive later on. But the Minnesota Vikings, okay, week 1 at the New York Giants. I could see the Giants winning this game. J.J. McCarthy's first start, a new system. Say what you want about Daniel Jones or Brian, the head coach. I won't even say his last name, Dable. But there's continuity with them. This is all new. This is all new for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if they're going to be ready week 1. Okay, so let's say they go 0-1. Maybe they win this game, right? Maybe. But then they're playing the 49ers at home. This is their home opener. The crowd's going to be going crazy, but the 49ers are the 49ers. I'm sorry. It's not going to work. And then at home against Houston. I'm sorry. Home field advantage is really great, but not when you play in my opinion, Houston's probably the best team in the AFC this year. So very difficult. Then they play the Packers and the Jets. I hate to say it. If you're a Vikings fan, all I'm going to say is be prepared to be 1-4 or 0-5 by the bye week. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's just the way it's going down. Okay. This is not going to be a good start to the season for the Vikings. And if I'm wrong about that, I'm wrong about that. But I feel very confident in what I'm saying right now. And Nick said, who's the worst division right now? I can't really tell. The worst division right now, I'm still going to say that we'll get there. We'll get there. I gotta go through some of these games and then I'll kind of look at how I think it's going to go down. But great question. I'm keeping that in mind as I go through this. Then they hit the bye week. Like I said, 0-5, 1-4. If they're 0-5, they're probably 0-6, probably 0-7. I mean, maybe 1-6. Maybe they get lucky, 2-5, best case scenario. Maybe win a game against the Colts, but then Jacksonville. Maybe win against Tennessee, right? Chicago. Chicago's got a lot of talent. I would right now pick Chicago. Arizona. They just keep in mind, Arizona's going to look entirely different. They added 12 players through the draft. About half of them are going to definitely be starting. They are reloading. They're in a full rebuild, but they have their quarterback. They're coached really well, and they just added a ton of talent. So Arizona is one of those teams that you don't think of as a dark horse team, but this might, they might look a lot better this year than they did last year when they didn't have Kyler Murray, and it was Rich Gannon's first year as a head coach. I think Arizona is going to be a tougher team this year. Atlanta, Chicago again, Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit. I think I'm going to say something really bold right now. I think the Vikings might be the worst team of the 2024 season. I know that somewhere out there, Tom Grassi is going, what was that? I just felt euphoria. What? Why? Why do I feel so euphoric? It's me, Tom. It's me. And I'm letting everybody know that the Vikings, if you're a Vikings fan, be prepared for the type of... See, here's the thing. When you look at over-unders, most of them are, even the worst teams in the NFL, are at 5.5, right? But every single year, there's a team that wins 2-3 football games the entire year. And around this time of year, it's hard to speculate which team it's going to be because everybody on paper is a better, more improved team. So it's hard to predict a total collapse when there's a reason to have hope in every team. But if I can kind of see through the forest on this, I think the Vikings are that 2-win team. I think the Vikings could be. And Bill goes, wow, Vikings the worst. Yeah. I mean, I would say Carolina could be just as bad, but their schedule is just a little bit easier. So Nick said everyone looks good this time of year except the Vikings and the Panthers. Oh, I'm clipping that for him. I love it. I love it. Please do. Let him know that we're always thinking about him. And then, I'm going to go for this division. I think Detroit and Green Bay are going to battle out for first. Whoever isn't in first is going to be in second. And then you have the Bears coming in third, and then the Vikings fourth. I understand that Chicago's done a lot this offseason, adding weapons, Keenan Allen, adding the best quarterback in this year's draft in Caleb Williams. There's a ton of reason to have legitimate hope for Chicago, but you have to keep in mind that it looks good on paper. It looks good on paper. And Caleb Williams, to not expect any growing pains, this is a lot of new, right? A new offensive coordinator, just a lot of new, right? And new doesn't always mean bad, right? Houston had a lot of new, and it worked out. But do I expect Chicago to just go out there and win 13 games? I don't. I think that they are going to win maybe 9 or 10. But when I look at Detroit and Green Bay, especially with Green Bay, like we went through their schedule, and I think it's possible that we're talking about a 12-win football team with Green Bay. And I could say the exact same, if not more. I think 11 wins is more likely for Green Bay, and maybe leaning towards 11 for Detroit, but I could see them getting 12. But yeah, let's look at their opponents real quick. Oh, they're up here. Just on a quick glance here. Philly is a tough game. The Rams is a tough game. Detroit is going to be tough twice a year, but you could say the same for Detroit playing Green Bay twice. Houston, I mean, pretty much they're playing a lot of the same opponents, but I'm trying to see if I could at quick glance see which ones. So they're both playing the 49ers as well. Here's one. Detroit is playing the Dallas Cowboys. The Packers aren't. Okay. So what division is that? The NFC East. So that means Green Bay is probably playing Washington, or who would be the other team? Washington, Philly, the Giants. I'm trying to figure out, because each team has that one game that the other team's. Okay, it's New Orleans. Okay, Detroit does not play the Saints. Okay, so I would rather play the Saints than I would the Cowboys, and that might be the one game difference that Green Bay needs to pull ahead. So, I'm gonna stick with Green Bay 1, Detroit 2. I'm just gonna say Detroit, Green Bay fight for 1. I don't know. Chicago 3, Minnesota 4. And I do, and before everybody that's a Bears fan gets upset with me, I think Chicago being locked in at 3, I still think that they win 7 or more football games. So them being at 3 has less to do with the Bears and has more to do with Green Bay and Detroit and where they're at right now. Okay, let me refresh this. Right now we have 205 games leaked. Now we have 207. All right. So that is the NFC North. Let's see. We got 2 teams with 17 games leaked in the NFC South. And this is the division that came to mind when you said, what's the worst division, right? Like a lot of them don't look bad. But you look at the NFC West and you go, well, Seattle, 49ers, Rams, any division with the Rams and 49ers can't be the worst. Seattle has a little bit of turnover with a new head coach and Mike McDonald. Is that going to work out right away? Is the Geno Smith experiment kind of already peaked? It peaked in high school, and we're just kind of hanging on to that for no reason. In Arizona, I mean, you could say that this isn't a crazy tough division, but you have 2 playoff teams, maybe 3. I'm going to say 2 right now. I think if your division is bringing 2 teams into the postseason, you're not the worst division. Okay, last year it was the NFC South. Mickey Loomis had a pretty good draft. They beefed up the offensive line. Carolina added a ton of talent, not just through the draft. I wasn't a huge fan of their draft, but they did have a couple good picks, and they added a ton through free agency. Atlanta is going to be a good team, and Tampa is going to be a good team. So I don't know if it's them, because I see 2 potential playoff teams in this division, 2 potential playoff teams in here, and 2 here. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8 playoff teams, and I believe only 7 playoff teams can be brought into the postseason, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 7. So maybe Atlanta doesn't do as well as we think, Raheem Morris was not a great head coach last time we saw him being a head coach. So this might be one of those teams that looked really good on paper, but just couldn't pull it together. And everybody says, well, Kirk Cousins did so well in Minnesota. Yeah, but also keep in mind that Aiden O'Connell was an offensive guy, very quarterback friendly, very innovative and creative. One of these guys that just understand what it's like. Is Raheem Morris going to be that for Kirk Cousins? I understand that he has more weapons, arguably. Not that TJ Hockenson, JJ McCarthy, and Jordan Addison are anything to, ignore. But honestly, I would, you know what? As I say that, I'm like, well, Kyle Pitts and, what's his name? Drake London and Bijan Robinson. There's another receiver too that I'm blanking on right now. There is a lot of talent there, but I think Atlanta might be one of those teams that we were like, man, they look good on paper. What happened? It could be a coaching thing. I'm not that high on Raheem Morris. So if you made me pick the worst division right now, it would probably be the NFC East, right? Yeah, NFC East if I had to pick. Okay. So let's see. 17 games have been released for the NFC South. So let's jump into the NFC South. Okay. New Orleans opens up against Carolina in the Superdome. All right. So they get a softball week 1. Although a divisional game is never too much of a softball, but the NFL makes them pay for it with a trip to Dallas and then back at home against Philly. Not very, not very friendly there. And then at Atlanta, at this point of the season, Atlanta might be desperate for a win. And when I say desperate, I mean losing to Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin's one of the best week 1 coaches. He'll have his team ready to go for that week 1 game. Then they have to play Philly in Philly, and that's a purple game, which means Monday Night Football. Okay, then after they play Philly, they have to go and play Kansas City at home. All right, so we're talking about week 4, with Kirk Cousins and all those things. This is a team that could be 0-3 looking for their first win. So this is a tough game for both of these teams at this point. But but New Orleans might have only won 1 game. So you could have 0-3, 1-2. New Orleans looking to get back to 500 and Atlanta looking to get their first win. This could be some kind of desperation here. Then for the Saints, they get their own trip to Kansas City, which is going to be on Monday Night Football as well. So that's a loss, right? Then they play Tampa and then versus Denver. This is Thursday Night Football. Sean Payton returns to the Superdome. They put it on prime time. It'll be a lot of fun. Then they got the Chargers. All right, that's not an easy game. Carolina, Atlanta again, Cleveland, and then a bye week. I think by the bye week, and what this is week 12, so not an early bye. I think by the bye week, it's safe to say the Saints only have 3 or 4 wins by the bye week. Okay. Very tough. I look at this and I'm like, are the Saints better than the Chiefs? Are the Saints better than Philly and Dallas and the Chargers? Are they going to be able to handle Atlanta? Not that Atlanta's a powerhouse, but are they going to be better than Atlanta? And then this is kind of Atlanta's time to start winning their football games. And coincidentally, here they are playing the Saints in Atlanta. So I think what might happen here is Atlanta starts off without getting any wins, and then they get maybe their first win week 4, while the Saints win. They go 2-2 by week 4, and then the Saints start losing, and Atlanta wins a couple games, and then here by week 10, you have a really important game between Atlanta and New Orleans, right? Cleveland bye week. Okay, then they play the Rams at home, at New York Giants, versus the Washington Commanders, at Packers, home for the Raiders, and then at Tampa. Not a terrible schedule. It's really not, but you do have a fair amount of difficult games sprinkled in there, and even the ones that I would say are mediocre. I would say, well, the Saints are mediocre themselves. So what makes me think that they're better than teams like Denver, like the Giants, like the Commanders, right? They haven't proven that. But one of the teams that has proven it, and I think that this team is being very slept on, is the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? Baker Mayfield had a great season last year. He was in his first year in a new system with new weapons. It went very well. They kind of started clicking late in the season, like Green Bay. Actually, Green Bay and Tampa played in December late last season, and Baker Mayfield became the first quarterback to have a perfect QBR in Lambeau in December. I mean, that just tells you how much it was clicking. And then they bring in Baker Mayfield's old quarterback coach from the Rams when he was over there. And he's already been talking about Baker and how much fun it is to coach him. And I did a whole thing on that. I think Tampa is going to be a decent team this year. Maybe better than decent. I think they're going to be a good team. Okay, they open up the season at home against Washington. Detroit. This is going to be a playoff rematch. Tampa almost beat Detroit in that playoff game. Then home against Denver, home against Philly, at Atlanta, and was that Monday Night Football? Thursday Night Football. Okay, so that's Thursday Night Football. Atlanta and Tampa. Then at New Orleans versus Baltimore, and that's Monday Night Football. Then Atlanta again, at Kansas City, San Francisco. Look at this stretch right here for Tampa. They got Baltimore, Kansas City, and San Francisco 3 in 4 weeks. And yeah, 1, 2, I guess 2 of them are at home. 2 of those 3 tough games. One of them in Arrowhead. I don't know, man. I don't know. This is going to be a real test. This is when push comes to shove, right? We said each team has their stretch. So for Tampa Bay, I'm going to say starting with this Baltimore game. So week 7 to their bye week, week 11. That's when we're going to figure out who Tampa is this year. And if they can win some of these games, whether it's the one against Kansas City, whether it's a win at home against the Niners, these are morale boosting wins to go into a bye week with, and then come out of the bye week and maybe crush a Giants and Panthers. Maybe get that real momentum going against, by winning a game against one of the better teams to make everybody believe, hey, we could be a real contender this year. Okay. Then they play the Raiders and at Chargers, at Dallas, versus the Carolina Panthers, and then versus New Orleans. Okay. So this is not terrible, but it's definitely not an easy schedule by any means. And I think you could really say that for every single team, right? And you have your teams that it's much more difficult, sure. But this is Tampa Bay's division to lose. People are crowning Atlanta. I think Rick said when Kirk Cousins got traded that he's picking Atlanta to win the NFC South. I think he did it that day. I think it's his only division prediction so far this year. I got to say Tampa's the team to beat here. And as much as we look at these Detroit, Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City games, San Francisco, and go, damn, that's a Dallas. Damn, these are some tough games. Tampa beat Philly in the postseason. Tampa had what it took to beat Detroit in the divisional round, and they came up short. Not Baker Mayfield's fault. His team let him down. So before, we say these are really tough opponents, they are, but Tampa is going to be a tough team themselves, right? And I think they're going to take some of this respect. No one's going to give it to him. There's still people that don't think Baker's a good quarterback. It blows my mind. But Tampa Bay is going to, I think, take everybody's respect next season by winning some of these games and putting themselves on the map. The Rams have had every single game released. Right now, we have 75.9% of the schedule released, 207 games. Let me do a quick refresher. Now we have 209 games, 76.8% of the schedule is released. And we got Jinja in the chat. What's up, Jinja? And Jinja said, trying to start an only football podcast channel on Discord, Kyle. Finally doing my part on social media. I probably need your help, Bill. Oh, shit. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Got the post taken down by the Colts immediately, but got one fool to join. Wait. I'm not so good with that stuff either, but thank you. You're doing the Lord's work out there, so thank you. All right, well, let's see who. Oh, the Bears. The Bears have all 17 games released. So I think that is the difference here. There was some unknowns with the Bears when we first started. So now we can look at Caleb Williams' first season with the Bears. Well, he's going to open up at home against Tennessee, and that's a very favorable matchup, especially for Caleb Williams in his season debut, NFL debut. This could be a morale-boosting victory right here against Tennessee. And he's going to need it to be able to carry that momentum next week into Houston, who they're going to play on Sunday Night Football. That's going to be fun as hell, right? Then the Colts at Indianapolis, okay? Then at home against the Rams, home against the Cardinals, or the Panthers, okay? So let's see. We got win, loss, loss. We'll say by the bye week, they should be 3-4, maybe 4-3. Okay. Then they come out of the bye week with plenty of time to, play a Washington team. They could probably win this game. Then lose against the Niners, win against the Patriots, lose against the Packers, win against Minnesota, lose against Detroit, win against Arizona, win against Minnesota, lose against Detroit. Seattle is going to be on Thursday Night Football. That's cool. That's going to be December 29th. And this Detroit game is Thanksgiving. And then lose against Green Bay. Honestly, we're looking at 8-9, maybe 9-8. If you're a Bears fan, don't be terribly mad about this. It's just, I'm sorry, it's your first season. I can't pick you to beat Jacksonville, San Francisco, Green Bay, Detroit, the Rams. But there's plenty games that are winnable. Tennessee, Indianapolis, maybe, right? I think the Colts are going to be a better team than the Bears. But if you're a Bears fan and I say the Colts are one of the tough teams, you're going to be like, we're a better roster and all that. So we'll just say for shits and giggles, Indianapolis is a winnable game. Carolina, winnable. Washington, winnable. New England, winnable. Minnesota, I heard he said it, winnable. Arizona, winnable. So you look at just their winnable games. Let's say they win all of their winnable games, and it normally doesn't go down like that, but there's only, 8 games that are winnable, quote unquote winnable. The Bears are looking at an 8-9 season. And, timestamp this, if the Bears come out swinging, I'll say I was wrong about that. But after looking at this schedule, I've seen the entire NFC North now. I'm willing to say that Green Bay and Detroit are going to battle for first. Chicago is going to be in third. Minnesota is going to come in last, maybe last in the NFL. Okay, so let's see what else is newly uploaded. So we have the Rams' whole schedule. And I'm just going to let this sit up here for you guys too. The Jets' entire schedule has been released as well. Hopefully, if you guys are watching this, you can see for yourself just by going to your team and looking down. So that's why I'm leaving this up right now. All of these games that are color coordinated are going to be prime time of some sort. Okay, I forget what this one is. This blue, that's Black Friday, right? So the Raiders and Chiefs are playing on Black Friday. That's pretty cool. Cleveland and the Broncos play on Monday night. So the Broncos only got 2 primetime games, one Thursday night football game and one Monday night football game. Not super happy about that. That is very sad. But at least we don't have to be embarrassed on national TV anymore. But I really do wish that I wish the Broncos had a couple more primetime games because I don't live in the area, and it can be really hard to get the games. Let's see who had the most primetime games. Buffalo's got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Miami's got 5 primetime games. So 5 is the number to beat. Wow, look at the Jets. Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, a game in England, Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, Halloween, the NFL's first Halloween game, Sunday Night Football. The Jets are going to be forced on everybody in America. You will watch the Jets next year. So let's all pray that Aaron Rodgers stay healthy because we do not want to. Actually, I would love to see Jordan Travis get some snaps, but a Florida State guy over here, so I just think he's going to be good. But I think in order for him to be good, he can't be thrown into the fire, so I take it back. So, yeah, at least it won't be Zach Wilson if anything happens. But knock on wood, nothing's going to happen. All right, so the Jets have the most primetime games as it looks right now. Look at the Bengals. Okay, they've only got 1 game release, so let's see. Where would we fit another primetime game in? Man, the Bengals are doing a good job of holding their schedule. And Jinja said we didn't get 1 last year. How many do we have this year? So the Colts have 1 primetime game this year. It is against the Jets on Sunday Night Football. So like I said, the Jets have a ton. Like if you're playing the Jets next year or this year, chances are you're playing them on primetime TV, except for the Broncos, who are playing them week 4 on regular television. So, all right, we'll keep going real quick through here. So Pittsburgh's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 primetime games. I really thought that the Denver Steelers game would be primetime. I don't understand why it's not. If Denver only had 1 primetime game next year, that should be it. Houston's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Houston's got 5 primetime games. Now, before the schedule was released, I told you guys that I heard that Houston had a bunch of primetime games. Now we know who they're against. So Baltimore, this is a Christmas game. Houston, Baltimore, what a freaking Christmas game. This is week 17. So this is one of those games that happens. Then Houston sits all their players and then potentially play Baltimore the next week in the postseason. This is the team that bounced the Texans from the playoffs last year. So that should be a really good one. And Ginger said, we only got that one because of the Jets. Hey, we played the Jets and we didn't even get that one. But I'm not sure why the Colts didn't get, at least a couple Thursday nights, even if it was just 1 Thursday night. Now that there's, football on Thanksgiving and Halloween, Black Friday, Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, even Saturday football, there's really no excuse for any team to have, less than two primetime games. Okay. So I'm going to let this sit for a minute. I have to go to the gym. I have a gym class coming up here in 15 minutes. I live 2 minutes from the gym, so no big deal. But when I get out of the gym, I'm going to reload this, I should have every game leaked by that point. So yeah, I'm going to be kind of bouncing on here. I was here this morning at 7 a.m. I'm here at 4 p.m. giving you the latest update. If you guys are on your phones watching this, feel free to screenshot what you're seeing right now, so you can look at it and really soak in it and stuff. And then when I come back, we'll fill these blank spots up, hopefully. Around every 30 minutes, I'm noticing a big jump. We just got another football game. Who was it? Let's see. So I'm going to write this down really quick. I'll do it on my phone. Actually, I'll just take a picture. So I'm going to take a picture of the bottom so I can see what's changed when I come back. All right. So, all right. I will see you guys in about an hour and a half, and then we will release the rest of the schedule. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys are watching this, please hit the like button if you're enjoying it, and we'll keep you up to date with the latest news. The 2024 NFL schedule release happening officially tonight. My goal is to give it to you guys before it's released. So, that's like my definition of a really cool podcast. A podcast that gives you the NFL schedule before it's released. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching this, and I'll see you guys in about an hour and a half. See ya!